Hello students, today I'm going to give you the explanation on the literature chapter 9, Quasimodo. So, Quasimodo written by Gerald Durrell. Okay, so Gerald Durrell was a British author, naturalist, zookeeper, conservationist, television presenter. In 1959, he founded the Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust and the Durrell Wildlife Park on the Channel Island of Jersey. He wrote a number of books based on his life as an animal enthusiast. His best-known work is My Family and Other Animals in 1956, which talks about his idyllic childhood on the Greek island of Corfu. So let me tell you about the author first, okay? So this story, Quasimodo, is adapted from the novel of the author himself. That is the novel known as My Family and Other Animals. Okay, so he take a little part from it and he write a story about here only for one part from his novel. Clear? So regarding his life, that means this is the autobiography, that means the story written by the author himself. So he was born in 1925 and died in 1995. He was a British author, a naturalist. Naturalist means a person who likes nature. Then he was a zookeeper. I'll tell you later this one. Then conservationist. Conservationist means he is a person who likes to conserve the environment, and he was also a television presenter. Television presenter means a person who works in a television as a newsreader or any other show in the television. Clear? So in 1959, he founded the Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust. So this later comes to be known as the Durrell Wildlife Park on the Channel Island of Jersey. This Durrell Wildlife Park is his own zoo. That means the author's zoo, founded by him and his family. Okay. So in the Channel Island of Jersey, this Channel Island of Jersey is located on the English Channel in the Atlantic Ocean, which separates southern England from northern France. So he wrote a number of books based on his life as an animal enthusiast. Animal enthusiast here means that he was fond of collecting animals in the wild for his zoo, because he was having a zoo named as Durrell Wildlife Park. Clear? So he had to collect. He was fond of going to the wild and collecting all types of animals to put here in the Durrell Wildlife Park. So this is a story about the childhood memory of the author, where he once had a pet tortoise named Achilles. Here, can you see? Not long after Achilles had been taken from us, that means Achilles is a pet tortoise that died after a fall. Here is the part that has been referred. Clear? So later on obtain means he get another pet from the rose beetle man. Rose beetle man here means a man who reared beetle. Beetle are the insects. Look at the meaning here. Common beetle found in Europe which feeds on roses and other flowers. So this man gave them the pigeon this time. So he was still very young and had to be force-fed, bred and milked and soaked corn. That means this pigeon was just like a small child who needs to be done everything. That means to eat, to feed him, even have to soak a corn because he cannot swallow. So he was the most revolting bird to look at, with his feathers pushing through the wrinkled scarlet skin. Most revolting bird means the meaning in your book is unpleasant to look, because he was still small and his feathers also are pushing towards his wrinkled scarlet skin. Scarlet here means bright red in color. Then mixed with a horrible yellow down that covers baby pigeons. That means mixed with a horrible yellow. That means a red color and a yellow color mixed together in that pigeon, okay, that pigeon skin. So yellow down means, yellow down here, down means the neck. It refers to the neck of a bird that covers baby pigeons and makes them look as though they have been peroxing their hair. That means when we look at that pigeon, it looks as if it is peroxing. Peroxing means dyeing the hair, okay? Dyeing, you know, no? Like you apply color in your hair. Then, owing to his repulsive and obese appearance, Larry suggested we call him Quasimodo, and liking the name without realizing the implications, I agreed. So here it means that owing to his repulsive here means because as we know that when a baby is still small, or birds or any other things or any other living things, they are wrinkled. So we cannot look at them. So it's kind of, the appearance is kind of, is weird. So owing to his repulsive and obese appearance, that means repulsive means a cold behavior that this pigeon show towards the family. Then the obese appearance and a little bit fat. So his, the author's brother suggested that we call him, give him a name, Quasimodo, okay? And liking the name without realizing the implication. So the author also here, like looking at him being a little bit fat and his cold behavior, his repulsive behavior. So without no arguments with his brother, with his siblings, he agreed. Okay, we'll get that name, Quasimodo. So for a long time, after he could feed himself, and when all his feathers had grown, Quasimodo retained a sprig of yellow down on his head, which gave him the appearance of a rather pompous judge wearing a wig several sizes too small. So here, that means later, when he can feed by himself, when he could feed by himself, that means to eat, all his feathers had grown. So when his feathers had grown, Quasimodo retained a sprig. Sprig means a small mark of yellow. That means a small mark of yellow down his neck, on his head, which gave him the appearance of a rather pompous judge. Pompous judge wearing a wig several sizes too small. So when they look at him later, when he had grown and when his feathers had grown, he looked as if he looked like a pompous judge. Wait, I'll show you the picture of a pompous judge. So this is a picture of a pompous judge. Can you see? Later, these lawyers, no, they used to wear a wig like this, so that to avoid impartiality in the court. Clear? To, like, before people were discriminated on the basis of color and ethnicity. So in England, they introduced this system. That means in the 18th century, they introduced this system that the judge have to wear a wig, so that there will be no impartiality towards the people that they served. So this bird also looked like that face of a judge who wears a wig. So now let's look at the another page, the second page. Owing to his unorthodox upbringing and the fact that he had no parents to teach him the facts of life, Quasimodo became convinced that he was not a bird at all and refused to fly. Instead, he walked everywhere. If he wanted to get on a table or a chair, he stood below it, ducking his head and cooing in a rich contralto until someone lifted him up. So let us see here. What does it mean here by unorthodox? In your book, it means that not usual or traditional. So here, a bird has been raised by human beings, yes or no? So he had been raised, nurtured by the human beings. So he don't know the facts of life. That means the fact of being a bird. So Quasimodo became convinced that he was not a bird at all. So here the pigeon thinks that because he was living with a human being, so he refused to fly because the human being did not teach him how to fly. So instead he walked everywhere. If he wanted to go on a table or a chair, he stood below it. Stood below it means he will be there on below the chair or the table. Then ducking his head. Ducking his head here means he would bow or quickly lower the head or body and keep on cooing in a rich contralto. Cooing here means coo is a sound of a pigeon, of a bird pigeon. So he would make a sound just like a contralto. There, the meaning in your book is the lowest female vocal range. That means he would take the sound of a female voice until so as to persuade them to take him up. Okay, persuade those the family of the author to take him up on top of a table or a chair to make him sit. Then until someone lifted him up, he was always eager to join us in anything we did, and would even try to come for walks with us. This, however, we had to stop, for either you carried him on your shoulder, which was risking an accident to your clothes, or else you let him walk behind. So, whenever they go out, whenever the author's family going out, that means this bird also, Quasimodo also, was always eager to join them in the work or in anything that they want to do, and would even try to come for work with us. It means if they go for work in the morning also, he would follow them. Then this, however, we had to stop. That means later the author and his family realized that no, we had to stop this tradition of taking him along. Then for either you carried him on your shoulder, which was risking an accident to your clothes, or else you let him walk behind. That means if they take him along, they have to put him on top of their shoulders. That means, which was risking an accident. That means if they put him on top of their shoulders, that means he would do something mysterious to them. So, or else make him walk behind them. So if you let him walk, then you had to slow down your own pace to suit his. For should you get too far ahead, you would hear the most frantic and imploring coos and turn round to find Quasimodo running desperately after you. That means if you do not do that, that means carried him on his shoulder, on their shoulder, then they would make him walk. And if they make him walk, you have to slow down your pace. That means to be together at his same pace. So when he was left behind, for should you get too far, that means if you are too far ahead of him, you would hear the most frantic and imploring coos. Frantic means, the meaning in your book is wild with fear and anxiety. That means he will make a wild noise, okay? That cooing noise. Then imploring coos. Imploring here means he's pleading. He's pleading them, like to wait for him or to take him on their shoulders, like he's pleading, begging. And turn round to find Quasimodo running desperately after you. His tail wagging, that means if you don't wait for him, that means he will wag his tail seductively. Seductively here means temptingly. Temptingly, as if he was about to do something to them if he reached near them. Then his iridescent chest. Iridescent chest here means his glowing chest pouted out with indignation at your cruelty. That means he will show his anger to them. Just like a small child, why don't you wait for me? Clear? So Quasimodo also, the reaction of him was like that, just like a small child leaving behind his parents. That means the parents are leaving him behind. Let's come to another paragraph. Quasimodo insisted on sleeping in the house. No amount of coaxing or scolding would get him to inhabit the pigeon loft. I had constructed for him. He preferred to sleep on the end of Margot's bed. Eventually, however, he was banished to the drawing-room sofa, for if Margot turned over in bed at night, Quasimodo would wake, hobble up the bed, and perch on her face, cooing loudly and lovingly. So here that means Quasimodo insisted on sleeping in the house. That means he forced himself that he wants to sleep in the house. Although the family has constructed a pigeon loft for him. Okay, a loft is a space in a room like a nest. But Quasimodo don't like to sleep in that place. No amount of coaxing, that means after so much of persuading him or scolding him, he would not go and inhabit into his pigeon loft. He preferred to sleep on the end of Margot's bed. So he liked to sleep at the end of Margot's bed. Margot here also is another sibling of the author. So eventually, however, he was banished. Like most of the times, he was banished here means he was sent away to the drawing room sofa. For if Margot turned over in bed at night, that means as soon as Margot, because a human being doesn't sleep in one position, yes or no? So he keep on changing his position in the bed. So as soon as Margot turned over in the bed at night, then Quasimodo would wake, hobble up. That means hobble here means they tied him. They tied with a strap, but not a long strap that he can move everywhere in the room. Just a small strap, only for a short. He can move only for a short distance. So he would hobble up, would wake, hobble up the bed, walk in the bed, around the bed, and perch on her face. Perch here means he would sleep and rest on top of Margot's face. So that is the thing that he was going to do to the author's family. So he keeps on cooing loudly. He sits on top of Margot's face and cooing loudly and lovingly. Okay, let's come to another paragraph. It was Larry who discovered that Quasimodo was a musical pigeon. Not only that he liked music, but he actually seemed to recognize. He can recognize two different varieties of song. And that is the waltz. The waltz means it's a type of ballroom dance, the couple dance, okay? The dance with a man and a woman dance in a ballroom. And the military march. Military march is a sound that the soldiers march. That the beat of the drums and the trumpet. That is a type of military march, okay? And the beat of the foot, the tapping of the foot. So for ordinary music, he would waddle as close as to the gramophone as possible and sit there with pouting chest, eyes half closed, purring softly to himself. But if the tune was a waltz, he would move round and round the machine, bowing, twisting, and cooing tremulously. That means if he heard any ordinary music, he would waddle. Waddle means he will just walk around this bench, okay, the bench that the gramophone is kept. So he would just waddle close to that and as possible and sit there with pouting chest. That means he will sit there and show his pouting chest. That means the enlarged chest. Okay. Then he would close his eyes, half closed. Then purring softly. Purring softly means he would make out some song, some noise from him. Then, but if the tune was a waltz, as soon as he heard that the tune was a waltz, so he would move round and round the machine as if he was dancing. Okay, bowing, twisting, and cooing tremulously. That means he will move in a dance position. Then, for a march, on the other hand, Sousa, for preference, he drew himself up to his full height, inflated his chest, and stamped up and down the room. That means when he heard the sound of a march, when the author and his siblings were playing the Sousa. Sousa here means in your book, it is referred to as a... Sousa was an American composer and conductor of military marches. That means he was a man who composed this song, or the song of a military march, yes, the sound. So whenever they played this tune of Sousa, that means he will drew himself up to his full height. Full height here, it means that he pretends to act like a soldier. He stands in his full height, inflated his chest, that means enlarging his chest, bloated up his chest, then and stamp up and down the room, just like the soldiers do. Okay, that means left, right, like that. Then while his crew became so rich and throaty, and his the way of making his sound also, his squeaking sound also, is so rich, that means so hard and throaty, right from his throat it come out. Okay, that he seemed in danger of strangling himself. That means it will, when the family of the author heard, they said it was in danger for him, because he has make it from the throat itself. Okay, he has given out that sound. So he never attempted to perform these actions for any other kind of music except marches and waltzes. That means he likes the sound of the marches, the military marches, and the waltz very much. So occasionally, however, if he had not heard any music for some time, he would, in his enthusiasm at hearing the gramophone, do a march for a waltz or vice versa. But he invariably stopped and corrected himself halfway through. So here it means that there's a time that when he never heard any song, that means for any other kind of music except marches and waltz. So whenever he had not heard any music, that means for a long time, he would, in his enthusiasm, that means in his eagerness, okay, in his keen way of feeling, that means not hearing the gramophone, not hearing the sound from the gramophone, what would he do? He will march for a waltz. That means he will just assuming himself that, oh, he'll do a march for a waltz and a waltz for a march. That is what he does, okay? But he invariably stopped and corrected himself. But here he realized that, oh, he needs to change. Invariably means every time. Whenever he does this, a march for a waltz and a waltz for a march, that means when he performed that dance, so he keep on correcting himself. Invariably means every time he stopped and corrected himself, whether he do it right or not. Let's look at another paragraph. Here, one sad day we found on waking Quasimodo that he has duped us all, for there among the cushions lay a glossy white egg. He never quite recovered from this. He became embittered, sullen, and started to peck irritably if you attempted to pick him up. Then he laid another egg, and his nature changed completely. He, or rather she, became wilder and wilder, treating us as though we were her worst enemies, slinking up to the kitchen door for food as if she feared for her life. So one sad day, the family member of the author find out that Quasimodo has tricked them, okay? Has tricked or deceived. That means lied to them all these times. They thought that he was a he, yes or no? But what did they see? From among the cushions lay a glossy white egg. That means this Quasimodo is a female pigeon, okay? That's why she lay egg. So, but they did not know all these times. They thought that it was a male pigeon. So he never quite, as soon as he does this, as soon as he lay egg, he never quite recovered from this. That means she's trying to feel shy, because they know that he was not he, she was a she, okay? So he became embittered, sullen. That means became bitter, then bad temper. Everyone is like that. Even human beings, when they are pregnant, they have that feelings. So animals, because animals, we do not know them, so that's why they have that bitter feeling, okay? And if anybody come and disturb them, that means they will peck. Peck here means to strike or bite something with a beak. That means they will bite with a beak irritably. That means anyone who annoys them, they'll do that. So Quasimodo also did that to the family of the authors. And his nature changed completely. So from this day on, they can see that he has changed his nature. That means all these times they have been treating him as a male pigeon. But she is a she-pigeon, okay? A female pigeon. So he or she rather became wilder and wilder, treating us as though we were her worst enemy. That means from this day onwards, she treated as if the author's family were her worst enemies, slinking up to the kitchen door for food as if she feared for her life. That means she do not move around the house anymore, but she is staying out. And when she want food, she would slink inside the kitchen door. Slink means move silently inside the kitchen door for food as if she feared for her life. So let's see at the last part of the story. Not even the gramophone would tempt her back into the house. The last time I saw her, she was sitting in an olive tree, cooing in the most pretentious and coy manner, while further along the branch a large and very masculine-looking pigeon twisted and cooed in a perfect ecstasy of admiration. So that means here, when they play the gramophone also, it does not tempt him to come inside the house, okay? It does not make him to come inside the house, because she has found a partner. That's why she has laid an egg. So the last time that the family members saw her, or saw the pigeon, saw her, like she was sitting in an olive tree, cooing in the most pretentious and coy manner. Pretentious here means she's pretending to be like, to show to them that she is a bird. She will stay outside in a tree. And coy here means pretending to be shy. Okay, because all these time they treat him like a male pigeon, but suddenly they saw her lay eggs. So she's pretending to be shy. While further along the branch, and when they look further along the branch, they saw a large, very masculine looking pigeon twisted and cooed in a perfect ecstasy of admiration. That means they can see a male pigeon sitting together with her in an olive tree, in that large tree, with ecstasy of admiration. That means an overwhelming feeling of great happiness and joyful excitement. That means this masculine pigeon is her partner, is a partner of Quasimodo. Okay, so this is it for today, student. Thank you.